in around that event and will just not be available for Macau. Whether that's simulator work or we do know he has been doing some running in the 2014 Williams F1 car. So whether it's either that or simulator work, I can't actually put my finger on that. But as far as I'm concerned, as far as I know, he's not actually available for Macau.
And one of the strongest rumours, of course, that we can neither confirm nor deny because we genuinely do not have the proof, is that he could find himself in an F1 seat next year, but that hasn't been done yet. OK, so we've seen Joel Eriksson, who's P1 on the grid. And here is Jake Hughes, who is going from P2 for the Carlin team. So Jake Hughes, and alongside Jake Hughes going from P3 will be Callum Eilert. So as we look at the Van Amersfoort driver now, Callum Eilert.
And mention as well, Callum Eilert originally finished third in race 2 yesterday,
yes.
but was excluded from the results a couple of hours after the event. Turned out they had too little fuel left in the tank, as it were, to sample. Only 200 grams.
Fritz Van Amersfoort at dinner last night was... What I love about Fritz is he's so honest and hands up, and hey, it was our error, and we've let Callum down. He was really felt bad about it, but it's one of those things. It does happen. As we look now at Lance Stroll, then, who has had 2 out of 2 so far this weekend, of course, has already sealed the championship. Now, the all-black crash helmet that he's wearing has signatures of every single member of his team on, and it's Lance's way of saying thank you to the team for everything that they've done for him this season in propelling him, of course, to become the 2016 FIA Formula 3 European champion. Sergio Sette Camara then from Moto Park, who, for my money, has looked pretty lively this weekend.
He's actually kind of almost back to his old self this weekend. He's had periods this season where he's kind of just been very anonymous, it must be said.
Yes.
For a driver that we saw improve quite regularly last season. And it's been, he's had some ups, he's had some very, very good performances, but there's also been too many races where he's just been not on the radar whatsoever. And it's, the other factor is Red Bull.
Yes.
We're coming into the point of the year where they're going to have discussions about which drivers are going to be backing for 2017, and they do tend to be brutal.
Absolutely.
if the results aren't coming.
And again, that's Callum Eilert was one of those that had the Red Bull backing last year and doesn't have it this year. There are some that react better to that, having that pressure on them, if you like. As we look at Anton Hubert. P6 on the grid, of course, is Nick Cassidy, and some of the things you were mentioning about Sergio Sette Camara in terms of the performances this year could also not be applied to Nick Cassidy as well, where we've expected him to be really, really good, and things have gone against him. And what I'm trying to say is that we perhaps haven't seen the talent that we know is there for other reasons, potentially.
Absolutely. There's been such a lot of errors. Even though this championship has been dominated by Lance Stroll, we've seen it in Prema Power Teams. There's actually been races where there have been quite a few errors as well. And Nick has had situations we saw at the Nürburgring several weeks ago where his virtual safety car electronics unit actually switched in, and suddenly he was on the back straight doing 60 kilometres an hour, and everyone
slowed, wasn't he? OK, we're looking at David Beckman now, the Muka Motorsport Cave-Styler driver.
And Beckman is going to be the only Muka driver in this race. Unfortunately, Mikkel Jensen has withdrawn from this race. Now, the issue I understand is they've had...
You've prefaced my why again, haven't you?
The issue I understand is... They've had severe handling problems with the Jensen car all weekend. They've not been able to find a solution, and as such, Jensen has removed himself from this race.
So he has elected not to race. OK. Nikita Mazepin, who's going from P10 on the grid. We've done the first 5 rows. Another notable one that we've missed out as we've been talking about other things, of course, is Alexander Sims, who will be going from P8. We saw the bespectacled Alexander Sims just a few moments ago as the camera zoomed in on his crash helmet. Alexander Sims is one of those drivers that could almost be on the grid on a sack barrow and potentially could get a podium, couldn't he?
Absolutely, and he's had a bit of a feisty weekend, I think it's fair to say. But you know what, he's a veteran, not just of Formula 3, but of racing. He's been involved in lots of GT programmes in recent years as well. He does an awful lot of testing for Formula 3 teams because he is an experienced driver who is trusted, who brings not just a lot of pace, but a lot of experience and knowledge as well.
And it's that feedback, isn't it, to the teams that's so important to them. And he can be relied upon to deliver exactly what they are looking for.
High-Tech leaned on him quite a lot last year as they were actually building up for their return campaign for this season, and for a very, very good reason. When you need data and you need results, you go to Alexander Sims to do it.
Gerhard Berger and Walter Mertes there in discussion. Gerhard Berger, of course, can be... I think it's fair to attribute perhaps the success of the FIA Formula 3 European Championship in its current guise down to that man who was at the time the FIA single-seater commissioner. That position, that role now held by Stefano Domenicali, but Gerhard Berger was, worked very, very hard to put the FIA Formula 3 European Championship where once it was not enjoying the healthiest of grids. The changes that he made has made it what it is now, and it's a very, very healthy championship.
Absolutely, and Dave, a lot of people it was a difficult time, I think, for Formula 3 in between, say, 2010 to 2012. A lot of F3 championships were struggling. Gerhard had to make some very, very hard choices, and a lot of people didn't necessarily agree with him, but the result has been a European Formula 3 championship that has seen great success over the last 4 years.
It is the Formula 3 European Championship then that fills the grid, and we'll bring the grid in full for this race number 3 in just a few moments as we see the cars weaving from side to side to generate some temperature into those tyres, because my learned friend alongside me as we drove in from our hotel this morning said it's going to be a very warm day, Dave. It's going to be nice temperatures today. I haven't taken my coat off yet.
Did I say that?
Yes, you did. You said it's going to be a really nice day. The entire morning has been spent clouded in fog. We've been shivering. Here comes the grid then. Joel Eriksson and Jake Hughes on the front row. Then it's Callum Ilott and Lance Stroll. Sergio Sette Camara and Nick Cassidy. He was very slow away, actually. Antoine Hubert and Alexander Sims. Before we find Beckman, Mazepin, Aron, Barnicoat, Guan Yu Zhu, Harrison Newey, George Russell, Piquet. Then it's Gunter, Chang and Nico Kari.
And of course, it's going to be Dan Tinktum and Lando Norris starting from the pit lane.
Why?
They've done, they're not registered for the championship this year, and they've done an awful lot of testing, but actually so much testing, it's taken them beyond the limit that they can register as entrants for this race.
So they have to start from the pit lane.
It was a similar issue, I think, last year when Alexander Sims was testing for High-Tech, and he came to race in Portimao. He had to start from the pit lane that weekend as well. Just to note as well, we've seen Jake Hughes, who's going to be on the front row of the grid. Normally a GP3 racer, not necessarily used to the brakes that they use in Formula 3, and it's caused him a bit of difficulty on the warm-up lap in the first 2 races. Let's see if he's learned to actually adapt and change his procedure coming into this final race.
Okay. Right, cars making their way back to their grid boxes. Then the air temperature, as you can see, well, it's a positively balmy 13.9 degrees. Track temperature 18.2. The front 3 rows now absolutely complete, and those front 3 rows contain Joel Eriksson, Jake Hughes, Callum Ilott, Lance Stroll, Sergio Sette Camara and Nick Cassidy. As we zoom in then on our pole sitter Joel Eriksson in the number 22 car, driving for the Moto Park team. And we await the green flag from the marshal at the rear, which, just as we speak, we get that. So the lights at the top of the screen for you, and it's going to be all action into this race for the final race, the FIA Formula 3 European Championship for 2016, and away we go.
And a fantastic start by Lance Stroll, who gets away from 4th on the grid and is in 2nd place as they come into turn 1. Jake Hughes, very, very slow away. Initially slots into 3rd place. And I do believe that's a very, very good start too by Eriksson, who slots into the lead. Callum Ilott starting from 3rd place is just behind Hughes in 4th, but he goes out wide.
And he's going to have to try and recover from there. But as you say, it was an absolutely blistering start from Lance Stroll, who finds himself in P2 already as the cars make their way around the Parabolica. Ben Barnicoat also making a move as well in the Racing Steps Foundation back car as they head up towards the hairpin now.
Nick Cassidy, a solid start from 6th on the grid, and he was coming side by side with Islet as they came past the Parabolica, and it's Ericsson. He's gone off, he's gone wide. Is Stroll going to take the lead as they come out of the hairpin? I don't think he will, but they're side by side. Slots in back just behind Ericsson, who keeps the lead somehow, but he's going to try again into Mercedes. Will he make the move?
Well, he's going to do that. That's absolutely incredible. What we saw there through the hairpin is Joel Eriksson was able to take the speed through using the runoff area and just deny Lance Stroll, and he continues to deny Lance Stroll. And Lance Stroll under pressure now from Jake Hughes.
Absolutely fantastic moves through those corners there as Callum Islet, I believe, actually went wide coming into the stadium section. He's gone off again, loses several positions. Ericsson continues to lead. Stroll second place, Hughes in third.
Absolutely extraordinary opening lap here, and there is the number 6 car, and that is I think that was actually Beckman involved in that, wasn't it?
I think it was David Beckman, and he came side by side and almost lost his front wing as a result. And Callum Islet is hemorrhaging positions on this opening lap, really falling down the order. He's crossed the line in 12th place, not the first lap he wanted by any stretch of the imagination.
So then the cars complete one lap, and battle going on there for P3.
That's Cassidy.
Nick Cassidy moves himself up into P3 then, having got past the Jake Hughes car. Meantime, Joel Eriksson and Lance Stroll still battling together.
But Cassidy made a mistake actually entering into the Parabolica, got a little bit wide and just giving Jake Hughes a little bit of a run as they come down the long leaning left-hand bend, approaching the hairpin. Hughes has already gone through, but Sergio Seta Camara on the inside. Will he make the move? Cassidy in the middle, tagged.
Yes, Sergio Seta Camara set that up perfectly, didn't he? He was just waiting for those two to battle ahead. Now it's side by side with Nick Cassidy, but Cassidy has just got the momentum.
It's Lance Stroll going for the lead as they come into the Mercedes section as well. He has the inside line. Will he nail it? Gerald Ericsson this time? He does, but Ericsson has the inside. Will he retake the lead? No, Stroll covers it off as Cassidy maintains third place ahead of Sergio Seta Camara. Then it is Jake Hughes there in 5th place, and I believe that is Alexander Sims just behind in 6th place.
So much happening in the early stages of this race. That was a brilliant move by Lance Stroll, and also good driving from Sergio Seta Camara, who's just waiting at the hairpin for those two to battle together and was trying to take advantage of that. And now Lance Stroll has got his nose in front. Just watch him escape up the road like never before as we watch Jake Hughes then through the Sud curve up. And here in replay then was Lance Stroll diving up the inside of Joel Eriksson. Now Eriksson here tried to get the switch back. Whilst that was going on, Jake Hughes, Nick Cassidy and Sergio Seta Camara were battling as well. But this was where Lance Stroll was utterly determined. And there was a bit of a lock-up from Nick Cassidy as well, which slowed his progress slightly. So many replays, and that was Jake Hughes losing out to Nick Cassidy. But Nick Cassidy then made a further mistake as they went into the Parabolica, which allowed Jake Hughes to get alongside him again. But the order is Lance Stroll, Joel Eriksson, then it is Nick Cassidy, then it is Sergio Seta Camara, who's up to P4.
And breathe.
Yes, again.
Oh, there's a lock-up there from Nikita Mazepin. Nearly lost out. He's on the tail end of the top 10, 9th place, but he may be about to lose out. And he has actually lost out to David Beckman, who got through. Mazepin was chasing Ben Barnicoat. And, someone's going up. That is that actually Beckman again?
I think it is Beckman who's gone off, and there's a big cloud of smoke there.
I think he's, puncture. I wonder maybe if he just clipped the rear Mazepin as Mazepin locked up into the hairpin. We'll see, but that's definitely a puncture, and he's going to be going into the pits, and not how he wanted to end the season. The guy who actually claimed the final podium position yesterday once Callum Islet had been excluded.
So there we can see that was the Mazepin lock-up, wasn't it?
Actually, it's probably
Barnicoat, isn't it?
It's probably so as Barnicoat was avoiding Mazepin, that they've probably come together.
Yes.
And that's it.
So, and that's dislodged the end plate on the front wing, and the front wing is now wobbling about as well. So you're absolutely right. He's going to be into the pit lane, isn't he? So it was Ben Barnicoat where the contact actually happened. Meantime, as we look at that replay, Lance Stroll has opened up a lead of 1 second already over Joel Eriksson, and this we've seen so many times before. As once he gets his nose in front, he is just up the road and is absolutely extraordinary. So into the pit lane then in a cloud of smoke comes the number 8 car of David Beckman, as expected, with the loose front nose and wing and puncture as well. So the Mooker Motorsport team down there to attend and try and get him back out as quickly as possible. So the nose standing by, as you can see. And as you say, it's not the way he would have wanted his final race in the 2016 campaign to go.
No, and they're going to have a quick look maybe over the suspension as well to make sure that it hasn't taken any damage in that side-by-side contact with Ben Barnicot. Meanwhile, Lance Stroll leading the race 1 second ahead of Joel Eriksson.
And those two have broken away, haven't they, from Nick Cassidy, Sergio Setakamara, Jake Hughes, and also Alexander Sims. Ralph Aron is running in P7. Nikita Mazepin is P8. Ben Barnicot is P9. George Russell is P10.
And George Russell, he's had a little bit of a weekend to forget. In a sense, he's had a blown engine in free practice, and qualifying 1 yesterday, and that's effectively given him 3 10-place grid penalties for the rest of this weekend.
And that's one of the regulations that's being altered for 2017, Lee.
Yes, and look, I think the regulation originally was there with good intention. It was so that teams wouldn't spend incredible amounts of money changing their engines, consistently.
Sure.
And so the penalty they introduced was a 10-place grid penalty for 3 races if you had to change your engine for performance reasons. It's been seen this year as too much of a penalty, and for 2017 there will be still a 10-place grid penalty, but only for one race.
Okay, number of changes coming in for the 2017 season, and the prize money is part of it as well. We'll get into that when we have a moment to breathe once again in the race which Lance Stroll is leading by 1.3 seconds. In the meantime, looking back down the order, there is Chang.
Dan Tinktum's just passed Andy Chang for 17th place. Coming into the hairpin now. Look at this start. Watch this start by Lance Stroll from the second row of the grid. Sees a gap between Jake Hughes and Callum Myler and slots straight in there. Wonderful start. And Ericsson just away from the front, calm as nothing else, while all hell breaks up behind him.
Under investigation then, the incident between David Beckman and Ben Barnicot. That's going to be investigated by race stewards. I think there was any malicious intent there. It was just one of those racing incidents through the hairpin, wasn't it? So we're looking at the replays of the start once again as they make their way into turn number 3 now.
And I don't think there was anything, as you said, there's nothing malicious in there. I think it's more a case of Ben Barnicot was actually avoiding the late braking Nikita Mazepin, and Beckman just happened to be caught within the fallout from that particular incident. So I don't think there's really anything malicious in there whatsoever. It's just an unfortunate racing incident that sometimes we get in these races. But meanwhile,
Harrison Newey is under pressure now, isn't he, from Maximilian Gunter? And Harrison Newey to the inside, Maximilian Gunter to the outside, running up the parabolic, and now heading towards the hairpin. The cars absolutely side by side. Harrison Newey right on to the back of Nico Kari then in the Ripple liveried car that's just ahead of him, and they stay and remain absolutely side by side here. Harrison Newey just got the momentum, has he, to deny Maximilian Gunter, but Gunter's going to have the inside line.
Good effort there by Harry Newey, who, let's face it, he's had a very, very, very tough year. It's not gone anywhere near the way he wanted it to go, but you know what?
It's been a big learning year for him, though, hasn't it? Stepped straight up from 1 year in ADAC Formula 4.
It's been a massive learning year, and arguably you might say he could have done with an extra year doing something like Formula 4 before coming into Formula 3, but he's learned a lot, and his performances have actually seen an upturn in the latter part of this season. He's shown more confidence, he's shown more pace, more importantly, he's also shown more aggression.
I wonder whether he feels that the benefit he's had from having a learning year, as we look at the replay of he and Maximilian Gunter together here, whether the benefits he's had from the learning year, if you like, in the FIA Formula 3 European Championship has delivered more for him than perhaps another year in the ADAC F4. I know I was chatting to Harry at the Nürburgring, and his thoughts were firmly on being back in this championship next year. So we've just seen George Russell into the pit lane.
Yeah, it's George Russell, he's as I said earlier on, it's been not a weekend to forget as such, because he actually has solidified third in the championship once Nick Cassidy couldn't finish race 2 yesterday. But he wanted to do that on a lot more of a high, and I'm certainly sure he did not want to finish the season in the pit lane.
No, absolutely not. The incident involving car number 9 and car number 24. There's going to be no further action. That is going to be deemed to be nothing other than a race result, as we see there. I think it's a retirement for George Russell.
Yeah, he's been pushed back into the garage there.
Great shame. Nice lad, George Russell, and sadly his season now ends. Jake Hughes has kept with Sergio Sette Camara here, and what we should also bear in mind is on the back of that little trio now, or forming the final part of that little trio, he's won Mr. Alexander Sims.
Yeah, Jake Hughes, we mentioned this yesterday, we mentioned this at the start of the race. His starts have been compromised because his warm-up procedure hasn't necessarily been what is necessarily best for Formula 3. But when he's actually in the race, when he's settled into the race, his pace has actually been very, very, very good. And we've seen that in the qualifying sessions. His pace is there. Fundamentally, his pace is there to set very, very good qualifying times. It's just that he's not yet actually mastered the start in a Formula 3 car, and that's probably what's hampered his actual results come the end of these 3 races. Okay, he had a little bit of a tiny bit of a shunt towards the end of towards the end of race 1, but you know he was running 7th, I believe, at the time, but that's not really reflective of the pace he's shown in the races and qualifying this weekend.
Looking at the back end of the Nikita Mazepin car, then running in P8 at the moment, as now Sergio Sette Camara and Jake Hughes together there, and he's really beginning to harry Sergio Sette Camara now, isn't he? And Sergio Sette Camara is having to think about really having to defend. Alexander Sims just waits and in abeyance, ready to pounce should these two should their battle, which inevitably will slow them down, allows Alexander Sims to get ever closer side by side once again as they go through that section of the track and onto the piece of tarmac now, which is the end of the drag strip here at Hockenheim before going into the stadium section now. And well, Sergio Sette Camara's got it lit up, but you can see the margin between Sergio Sette Camara and Jake Hughes at the moment, running for P4 and P5. Just behind is Alexander Sims, as I say, just waiting to pounce when these two continue to battle. If an opportunity should present itself, he's going to be in there like a viper, isn't he? So there is the Alexander Sims car. Good to see him back in a Formula 3 car, Firetech GP. So, strolling at the front, 2.1 seconds. All right, I criticised you for that yesterday, didn't I? Joel Eriksson is in P2, Nick Cassidy is P3, but quite rightly we're staying with this battle at the moment, which is on for P4, 5 and 6. Between Sergio Sette Camara, that car there, and there is Jake Hughes. And just behind is Alexander Sims as they make their way into the Parabolica once again. And look at the dominance of Lance Stroll, who, as I said, just before we went with the race, you know, he, once he gets his nose in front, just does not make mistakes. Jake Hughes just taking a look at the inside line, and Sergio Sette Camara covered it off. Now...
That was quite similar to the incident he actually had with Antoine Hubert yesterday, where Jake kind of made a half move, Sergio Sette Camara kind of half defended, and yesterday it ended up in a big shunt with Hughes going through the air as he keeps looking and diving down, and he's having another look at Sergio Sette Camara as the stadium section, as they come towards the stadium section out of Mercedes, but it hasn't quite worked this time, but will it give Alexander Sims the run to take on Hughes?
This is exactly what I was saying. Alexander Sims was just waiting for these two to really have a go so that he would be in a position where he could potentially take advantage of them battling together. At the moment, Sergio Sette Camara has just got away with it because all of a sudden Jake Hughes is having to think about Alexander Sims, who's right behind him at the moment. What a fantastic battle this is that is going on. The order on the screen for you, and we're watching the battle that's going on for P4, 5 and 6 at the moment. And in P6 it is that Alexander Sims car as they cross the timing line now. Confirmation of the order on the screen in front of you with Ralph Aron and Nikita Mazepin running in P7 and P8. But, breathing a sigh of relief just for a moment is Sergio Sette Camara, who builds up a margin of no more than a car length or two between himself and the hard-charging Jake Hughes as they enter the Parabolica again. Don't think Hughes is as close this time around as he was last. But let's see as they get towards the end of the Parabolica, going into the hairpin, whether another go is going to be made by Jake Hughes here.
In saying that, Dave, he's actually been... He has a look, goes around the outside this time, man. That is very brave, but completely locks up. Will he get the inside line as he exits the hairpin? He does, but I don't think he's got quite enough momentum coming out of the hairpin to make it work, but he's going to keep to the inside. Sergio Sette Camara holds his line. Not an open door for Jake Hughes this time around. Jake Hughes has found himself several times, maybe 3/10, 4/10 behind as he keep battling almost wheel to wheel on the entry into the stadium section. Alexander Sims still there waiting to pounce. But the Carlin definitely has very, very good straight line speed. It looks like it has higher straight line speed than the Motor Park because he's gaining significantly as they actually go down along the Parabolica, but it's not necessarily close enough entering into that section to make the move stick come the end of that section.
So P1 and P2 cross the line then, and out on battle on his own at the moment is Nick Cassidy for P3 before we get to this, which is fantastic. Sergio Seta-Camara, Jake Hughes and Alexander Sims then all battling over that P4, 5 and 6 position. So they're heading up towards turn number 2 now. And this is where Jake Hughes has to start setting up his move around the Parabolica. So let's see if this time he's certainly closer than he was last time around. He managed to outbrake Sergio Seta-Camara last time going around the outside. What is he going to do this time? Sergio Seta-Camara will, of course, try and make that car as wide as possible. As Lee has said, it seems to have the straight line speed. So around the Parabolica, it has a slight pace advantage. But, of course, Hughes is going to get a toe now, looks to the inside, now to the outside. We'll try and get the switch back, but I don't think it's close enough, and Alexander Sims not close enough to be able to try and take advantage of those two together either, as Jake Hughes once again weaves behind that Sergio Seta-Camara car. He cannot provoke a mistake from Sergio Seta-Camara ahead of him, and that's exactly what he's trying to do now. He'll try and go for the switch back here, or try and maintain the inside line, but he's, again, not able to do it. Wherever Sergio Seta-Camara needs to put that car, he's putting it, Lee.
I think there's a fundamental error that Jake Hughes is making as they approach into the hairpin. He's almost going out too far wide into that hairpin.
To be able to get the switch back.
To be able to get a fast enough exit.
Yeah.
To make the switch back work. What's happening also, Sergio Seta-Camara in this battle with Jake Hughes and Alexander Sims, there's a train from up behind him.
Yes.
He is in the 34s when everyone else behind him is capable in the 33s. The gap from 4th place, Sergio Seta-Camara, to Guan Yu Zhu, it's very, very, very close. We'll see what the latest actually gap is in a second as we see a replay of Lance Stroll.
Just going about his business very, very well indeed.
Going about his business. Sergio Seta-Camara in 4th place down to Guan Yu Zhu in 10th place. The gap is now only 3.2 seconds between all 7 cars.
So Seta-Camara is becoming a bit of a cork in a bottle here, isn't he?
He is. And I feel that if Jake Hughes does make the move, if he does finally get past Sergio Seta-Camara, it'll be interesting to see, will that be a battle between Sims and Sergio? And I think this is it, surely. Jake Hughes is finally going to solidify the position, but Sergio Seta-Camara is not giving up. He's holding that inside line and stands on the apex, doesn't it? But Jake Hughes gets a wonderful acceleration out of the hairpin this time around. Surely he's made the position, and he has. Jake Hughes takes 4th place from the Motor Park driver. The Red Bull back Sergio Seta-Camara. He'll not be too happy about that. Alexander Sims still sitting in the background too, waiting to take that 5th place should it become available.
Well, it's been a few laps in the making for Hughes, but he has finally done it, and he's now, I think he will have the pace advantage over Sergio Seta-Camara, certainly through the twisty sections of the circuit, to be able to escape up the road. Next up, it's going to be Alexander Sims, who's got Sergio Seta-Camara in his target sights, and this is how he did it then. He just had the momentum and the traction he needed out of that turn. That would give him the inside line for the next one, and already before they got to the next turn, he was ahead of Sergio Seta-Camara, who, to be fair, was going to come back and have another go, but it wasn't to be. This is our race leader, Lance Stroll.
Each lap around, Jake Hughes has just got significantly more pace coming through the Parabolica than Sergio Seta-Camara, and it was a matter of time. There's only so often you can actually keep defending like that, but when you have such a long straight and the car chasing has that much of a pace advantage, eventually it's going to break.
Well, we're watching master at work here, Lance Stroll, who's leading the race and leading it by some 3.5 seconds over Joel Eriksson, who we can just see into shot there as he makes his way around that turn. But Lance Stroll, absolutely, and doing exactly as I say that he does. Once he gets his nose in front, he just doesn't make any errors. He nails every apex, nails every corner, and just drives supremely competently and just delivers and delivers lap after lap. And I mean, he's still in the 32s.
And meanwhile, now that Jake Hughes a shot ahead, and it's Alexander Sims makes a dive down. Sergio Seta-Camara coming into Mercedes. solidified a position. Not quite yet. As Sergio Santa Camara has the inside now. It switches back to the right-hand turn. Sims back ahead as it comes into the stadium section here. Wheel to wheel. Sergio Santa Camara on the curbs. Not able to get back at Sims this time around, but he's got Ralph Aaron right on his wing as well. I think Sergio Santa Camara, as you said, is going to be a cork in the bottle. He may fall down the orders. Ben Barnacut now gets into the action with Ralph Aaron, and just behind him is Nikita Mazepin and Guan Yu Zhu at the bottom of the top 10. They're all packed together.
This could all end in tears, couldn't it? They are also closely packed together. Ben Barnacote there, you can see in the Racing Steps Foundation liveried car. But it's Stroll, Ericsson, Cassidy, Hughes, Sims, Seta Camara, Aaron, Barnacote. And Sergio Santa Camara finding himself losing out to positions here.
And Guan Yu Zhu going off the circuit as they exit turn 1, and he's lost out to Nico Kari, who goes into the points with that position, with that pass. Very good effort from Nico Kari, by the way, who actually took a 10-place penalty going into this race and started 19th. Meanwhile,
that was really, really bold by Alexander Sims. He was absolutely determined to make that work. In fairness, respect to Sergio Santa Camara, who gave him racing room as well. It would have been very easy for him to turn in.
Absolutely, and Sergio Santa Camara didn't give up either. He didn't just slick in behind Sims's rear wing and really stayed side by side right onto the dirty part of the track. And Sergio Santa Camara, at that point, he had to pull out of it, otherwise it could really have been a bad moment. And that's I think he's really. I wonder if these are the oldest set of tyres that Sergio Santa Camara has,
maybe
and they're beginning to possibly give up their optimum grip. As we see, that's Ben Barnacut and Ralph Aaron. And that is actually.
Well, that's Nikita Mazepin.
That's Mazepin and Kari.
Yep, Nico Kari and Nikita Mazepin getting together there. A bit of a.
And that's cost them positions as well.
Yes, it has. Well, both of them managing to get going again, but not before they'd lost out on 3 places.
And Dave, that's just clumsy.
Well, it is. It is. Yeah, you're right. But the last one to benefit there was a piece of the Nikita Mazepin car flies off. There, you can see it. Is that one of the rear wing end plates?
Yeah, it looks as if, and they've lost several positions in that as well.
Harrison Newey was the final one to take advantage of that. You can see Harrison Newey going through there.
So I think they've lost 4 or 5 positions apiece following that incident, and that's kind of what you as a driver you don't want to happen. You don't want to get involved in an incident that actually ends up costing you several positions as opposed to gaining a place.
Of course. Right, Stroll continues to increase the margin. It's 4 seconds over Joel Eriksson, then it's Nick Cassidy out on his own, then in P4 setting the fastest lap. Look, on lap 14 is Jake Hughes. And
Jake Hughes, this will give you an indication. Jake Hughes, that for that lap and a bit, as we see Dan Tinktum having a battle now with Nikita Mazepin, who's that will be for 13th place, and he takes it. There's Nico Kari just behind him in 14th place.
Bear in mind, Tinktum had to start from the pit lane.
Very, very good effort from young Britain, who's this is his first race weekend back in international motorsport after he had a bit of a suspension over the 2016 season, and he's handling himself very, very, very well.
The incident that we saw between Nico...
Oh, and they've collided. That is actually Mazepin and Tinktum. They've collided as they came around, exiting the Mercedes-Benz corner. Tinktum took the regular line, and looks as if he did not realise in the slightest that Mazepin was there.
Well, I was just about to say the incident that involved Mazepin and Kari earlier was going to be under investigation, but I think you're right. I think it was completely unaware of the fact that Mazepin was there.
Yeah, it looks as if Dan's taken the inside line and just really he cut across a bit sharply, I think, to be fair to Dan. I think he did not need to so drastically cut across his track, but Mazepin not there. I don't think either of them were really fully aware of that incident unfolding until really the contact occurred. Okay, under 10 minutes of the race left to run. And the race being led by Lance Stroll by some 4.2 seconds. There's Harrison Newey, we can just see in the number 20 car. There's Dan Tinktum then. And behind him now is the Pedro Piquet. Then it's Chang, Lando Norris. Lando Norris has been a bit anomalous in this race. Yeah, he has actually. He actually had he was in the pits at the start of this race. Right. So he actually lost. Not mean starting from the pit. He actually has had a pit stop.
All right.
So he's just. As another driver pulling into the pits is Mazepin, who I'm sure is actually taking quite a bit of damage in that runoff, and they're changing the nose. They're looking at the suspension.
Yeah, there was a one of the front steering arms was broken, I'm sure. It's a very sideways moment there for Maximilian Gunther, who manages to control it, but not before he's out on the rumble strips there. And you can see how those cars flex, and these super slow-mo replays that we're looking at. And getting his teeth rattled a bit there was Nick Cassidy. And there is the Joel Eriksson car.
And Joel Eriksson, just as you see in the replay, there's a lot of graining on the right front tyre on Joel Eriksson's car. Joel Eriksson actually came into this race with 2 new tyres on the left side, so he was actually using previously used tyres on the right-hand side, and I think maybe possibly the right front is giving up a little bit more grip now.
Well, Lance Stroll, whatever tyres he's using, his pace is extraordinary. Because he's 0.3 quicker than Joel Eriksson, who's running in P2, which means he extends his margin of comfort by 4.5. It's 4.5 seconds now. So Lance Stroll just continuing to bang tenths in, and with just on 7 minutes of the race remaining, is in a very, very commanding position indeed.
Dave, it's 3 or so laps since Jake Hughes actually passed Sergio Sette. He's pulled in 7.5 seconds over the motorpark driver.
Jake Hughes is the only one that's running in the 132s, mid 132s. Everyone else is in is in the 33s. As weekend goes from bad to worse for Callum Ilott, doesn't it?
It's been a bit of a disaster weekend for. He's pulled out of the race. He retired as well with radiator damage from race 1 after some contact. Was excluded from the podium yesterday and retired from this race. You can't get more of a nightmare weekend than that, really, can you?
No.
And it's a driver who's capable of podiums and capable of race wins.
Absolutely, we know that. Okay, so we see a slight lock-up there from Antoine Hubert. There is Antoine Hubert then in the number 21 car, who is running in the points at the moment. P10, this is the car that's ahead of him, Maximilian Gunther. So it's Stroll, Eriksson, Cassidy, Hughes. Then it's Sims running in P5 before we get to Sergio Sette P6. Ben Barnicoat is P7. Ralph Aron is P8 before the Gunther-Hubert battle that we continue to look at now with just 6 minutes of the race remaining. Gunther and Hubert then.
Up ahead, Dave. 3rd place, Nick Cassidy. Only 2.1 seconds ahead of Jake Hughes, who was 0.8 faster on the last lap alone. Yeah,
Jake Hughes has really got pace, and I mentioned that a few moments ago. He's the only one that's consistently lapping in the 132s. Now, with only 5.5 minutes or so of the race left to run, is there going to be enough time for Jake Hughes to get onto the back of Nick Cassidy? But not only that, also got to try and find a way past Nick Cassidy as we look at Ralph Aron and Maximilian Gunther there. Running through the hairpin before being joined by Antoine Hubert, who's in the final points-paying position at the moment in P10.
It wouldn't surprise me if Jake Hughes actually just really went for the podium, just for the hell of it,
Okay. Well, he's got 5 minutes left to do it, and still lapping in the 132s. And as I say, as opposed to everybody else, he's obviously got the pace in the car, hasn't he? Stroll, Eriksson, Cassidy, Jake Hughes, but we're looking at the Maximilian Gunther car that's running in P9 at the moment, just ahead of Antoine Hubert, who was a lot closer to Maximilian Gunther just a few corners ago. Maximilian Gunther then.
Sorry, Dave, Jake Hughes took a full 1 second out of Nick Cassidy on that lap.
There you go.
And Cassidy's losing a lot in the mid-sector. I think he's losing a lot in the final sector as well. But and the first sector where Jake Hughes is gaining a couple of tenths is only 20 seconds long. So Nick Cassidy is losing a lot somewhere. And again, it could be simply a case that final tyres of the weekend may already be used, so they could just be giving up grip at this stage of the race.
Well, he's bringing the margin down, isn't he? It's just 1.1 seconds now between Cassidy and Hughes. And what have we got? 4 minutes left on the clock as we look at our race leader, Lance Stroll. So,
what, 3-4 laps, do you think?
4, I think. 4, I think. It's doable, isn't it? Certainly on the pace that he's showing at the moment. 132.685 last time around. 133.670 for Nick Cassidy. So as you say, it was a full second quicker. We'll pick up on that battle shortly, which will begin to rage for the final podium place, P3. In the meantime, there is Lance Stroll, who again is doing everything absolutely right in that Prema engineered car. Lance Stroll then, who gained the 2016 FIA Formula 3 European Championship at Imola and came here with all the pressure released, but is going to have a fantastic end to his FIA Formula 3 European Championship season if it continues this way for the next 3¼ minutes. So Joel Eriksson, who is P2, and once again Hughes is getting now, he's within 0.6 of Nick Cassidy. So again, Jake Hughes is, I think you're absolutely right, he's going to be going for the podium here, isn't he?
And just ahead, as you said, Lance Stroll controlling this race 4.5 seconds ahead of Joel Eriksson. Lance Stroll, despite the number of wins he's had this year, and as you said, I think it was 13 from 29, as we see Nick Cassidy just coming into the hairpin, Jake Hughes just behind him. Cassidy defends kind of half-heartedly, but also really Jake Hughes wasn't going to make the move there, I don't think. He's probably going to wait another lap around before he's absolutely close enough, unless he can actually find a way coming into the Mercedes section. He's right under the rear wing of Nick Cassidy. He's got so much more grip. It just looks like he's on completely fresh tyres as Nick Cassidy slides around. Hughes to the inside, goes alongside Nick Cassidy, doesn't have enough momentum there to make the move past, but I think this is going to be coming quite soon.
Absolutely. I think Cassidy now is having to adopt an absolute defence, isn't he? Because there is no question about it that the pace that Jake Hughes has is superior to that of Nick Cassidy. Although there was a slight lock up there from Jake Hughes as they go into the back, to the banked third from last turn as they're heading towards the double part of the Sud curve now. And Jake Hughes clearly can see that podium potential available to him and wants to take that final podium place away from Nick Cassidy if he possibly can. So Cassidy breathes a sigh of relief now as they roll into turn number 1. Just escaping for the moment away from Jake Hughes, but bear in mind it's through turns number 2 and 3 that they start setting up a move for the Parabolica, where Jake Hughes has looked so very good at times previously in this race, certainly with Sergio Setakamara earlier on in the race. So now they're onto the Parabolica, but I just think Nick Cassidy has got enough of a margin now that it's going to make it ever difficult for Jake Hughes to really have a go. But Jake Hughes closes up now, and is going to be the king of the late breakers here. Goes to the outside, will try and carry the momentum through to get on the inside, but he wasn't close enough, Lee. I
just don't think it matters too much for Jake to be ultra close coming out of the Parabolica, because it just looks as if Cassidy has almost no grip going around certain sections of the course.
And it's in these twisty parts here where Hughes is looking certainly more predatory, isn't he?
Absolutely. And Nick Cassidy through some of the corners, it looks as if he's kind of really struggling almost to hold on to his Prema Power Team car, and Jake Hughes takes a little bit of a look out there. He's not going to try to make the move coming into the stadium section, but he's going to try and pick the momentum, keep that rolling, and maybe take that down towards the Parabolica for the next lap around. He dropped back a little bit at the end of last lap, but I think he's picked up the pace again. He was 0.3 quicker in that middle sector alone, despite the fact that he's almost under the rear wing of Nick Cassidy.
Extraordinary. So we continue to watch this battle raging for P3 at the moment, although Cassidy appears to have it under control just for the moment, but you can bet your bottom dollar that Jake Hughes is not going to be satisfied until it is absolutely the race is over and he has been denied. But will he be denied? Because he continues to try, and Nick Cassidy is very conscious of the fact that his rear view mirror is full of that Jake Hughes car being run by the Carlin squad, of course. So it is the battle between Prema Power Team and Carlin. We've got 2 laps in which Jake Hughes can try and do this, as he's closer to Cassidy than he was last time around. Again, he's going to go to the outside. Is he going to go for the switchback now? Certainly does try to, doesn't he? But Cassidy just makes that Prema car wide enough to deny.
Very nice defensive move there by Nick Cassidy to just... as Jake Hughes comes down to the outside line as they come into Mercedes. Does he have enough grip? Not quite. Nick Cassidy locks up, goes wide. Hughes takes the podium away, and all that defence from Nick Cassidy into the hairpin came to naught as the Carlin man just saw the door open wide and went right through.
And now, with the superior grip he's got, there's absolutely no way Cassidy's going to be able to come back at him. So actually, Jake Hughes, despite his valiant efforts to overtake, it was actually provoking a mistake from Cassidy in the end that gave him the position, wasn't it? That was the lock-up. Cassidy slides wide. Jake Hughes says, thanks very much, I'll have some of that. Podium is coming my way.
Just looking at the motion of Cassidy's car in recent laps, it just looks like he's been struggling for grip.
Yes,
coming
you
out,
have said that.
especially the twisty sections, and that's really where that lack of grip is going to tell.
Final lap then for Lance Stroll. What a weekend it's been. What a season it's been for Lance Stroll in 2016 as he heads around the Parabolica now for the final time in an FIA Formula 3 European Championship car, heads towards the hairpin.
And his final lap in a Formula 3 car, full stop.
You're right. So, under braking then, he goes through. He's got a margin of some 4.6 seconds over Joel Eriksson. This has been the dominance that we've seen from Lance Stroll. The car is extremely well engineered, of course, from the Prema Power Team, but he has had to drive that car, and he has driven it with such accomplishment during this season. Through the twisty section now, maintaining that margin over Joel Eriksson. You can see the surface change there, the drag strip here at Hockenheim, as they run into the... Well, he's but a few turns away from the checkered flag falling on what has been an absolutely remarkable season. So Südkurve is all that sits between Lance Stroll and the checkered flag to add yet another win to an incredible tally. Lance Stroll wins at Hockenheim again. Joel Eriksson will take P2, and it will be Jake Hughes. A fine performance to take P3. Look how he's left Nick Cassidy in his wake with the superior grip.
I'll put this into context. Nick lost 1.5 seconds on that last lap alone. He was just kind of maintaining, an awful lot of that was maintaining that fourth place, but really he just seemed to have lost an awful lot of grip in those last few laps. Alexander Sims, he takes 5th place on his guest weekend with High-Tech Motorsport. Sergio Sette Camara from Motor Park finishes the season with a 6th place finishes. An absolutely delighted Lawrence Stroll, father of race winner Lance. I'm going to tell you just a very quick fact, Dave.
Yeah.
That's Lance Stroll. He's taken 14 race wins this season.
Yep.
That is the first time this year he's actually done 3 wins in one single race weekend.
I was going to take issue with you there, but actually you're right, because it was the final 2 at Red Bull Ring and the first at Norris Ring. So that's where the 3 together came, but they weren't 3 in the same weekend. You're absolutely right.
But interestingly, it's 5 race wins in a row on the bounce, and 7 in the last 9.
Extraordinary. Absolutely extraordinary success. It was good to see Lawrence Stroll, his father then, who of course has supported his son Lance in terms of his racing. And, well, Lance has delivered, and delivered in bucketfuls, it has to be said.
And there's a replay there of Stroll taking the win to the delight of the Prema Power Team boys on the pit wall. They've had so much success in recent years. They're very much the top team in Formula 3 at the moment, and you know, that is success that hasn't come easy. That's been an awful lot of hard work, an awful lot of hours, awful lot of determination and skill from the Prema Power Team boys. The team principal, René Rossin, the mechanics, and the drivers, the trainers, everyone in that team, it just clicks.
Yes, and as you say, it's been built, and there is René Rossin and Lawrence Stroll having a congratulatory hug together. Hasn't always gone easy. They've had their ups and their downs this season, and it's how you come through that, isn't it? That is utterly crucial, and
We haven't seen that in a while.
it was very impressive, actually, wasn't it?
He's been off doing that in GP2 races.
Right, classification in full for you in but seconds from now. There it is. Lance Stroll, Joel Eriksson, Jake Hughes, Nick Cassidy, Alexander Sims, Sergio Sette Camara, Ben Barnicoat, Ralph Aron, Maximilian Gunter, and Antoine Hubert, then the top 10. Followed by Guan Yu Zhu, Harrison Newey to P12, Nico Carey, and then it was Daniel Ticktum, Pedro Piquet, Lando Norris, Andy Chang, then it was David Beckman, Callum Eilert, of course, as well as Nikita Mazepin and George Russell, we saw, sadly, in the pit lane, bringing their campaign to a close.
And of course, we're going to have 2 particular podiums following
particular podiums.
Following this.
Particular.
because it's going to be the podium for the race, the race top three, as it were. That's going to be followed by a podium for the championship top three as well, which that's going to be extra special for Lance Stroll. And Maxi Gunther, who came 9th in the race in the end, he's 2nd in the championship. And of course George Russell, who didn't finish, he takes 3rd in the championship. But 3rd in this race, Jake Hughes. What a performance by the young GP3 driver who stepped into the Carlin car this weekend in preparation for Macau. Some wonderful overtaking from the young man. Joel Eriksson, 2nd place at the end of this race. He's had a very, very good season, and it must be said, rookie champion, but his whole season's really come alive in the latter stages. Been very consistent, very quick, deserves the rookie title, I feel.
I agree with you.
And Lance Stroll. And I believe the fastest lap of the race as well in the end. Wonderful effort. As we said a few moments ago, 14 wins out of 30, 7 in the last 9, 5 on the bounce, and won every race this weekend.
And, may I say, an absolutely phenomenal start from him. Bearing in mind where he started on the grid, that win wasn't gifted. It was all about the start, and he did a great job in that. Where will we see that supremely talented young man in 2017? The mind boggles. Not too much, though.
Does it?
No, actually, it doesn't.
And delight. You can hear the delight from the Prema Power Team guys on the in-park Ferme, and absolutely deserved. A wonderful way for them to end this European Championship season. They'll be looking for more of that in 2017, of course.
Something that you mentioned, I think it might have been off the air, is just how the team have enjoyed working with Lance.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's easy to forget. Like, he is actually quite a nice guy. He's become very, very level-headed.
Jolly nice guy. What's
and
it's quite about?
And but the actual, you need that relationship to work. If you don't have a good relationship, a happy relationship with your engineer, it's just not going to work. Lance has worked so well with the Prema Power Team boys. Yeah. He's enjoyed his time here for this season. They've enjoyed the time. Obviously, not just the success, but actually as a team, they've worked so well.
Look at this. 507 points to 322.
And in the end, Joel Eriksson jumped Callum Eilert with that late season form as well for fifth in the standings.
So Stroll, Gunther and Russell then in the Drivers' Championship. And we are, as Lee has indicated, going to see 2 podiums. First podium will be for the for the race win, then the podium for the season's championship as well.
And just to put into context Prema's success in recent years, Junkadea.
Yep.
Rafael Marcello.
Yep.
Felix Rosenqvist.
Okay.
Esteban Ocon.
Okay.
And Lance Stroll. But that's just an indication of of how good this team actually is. It's not flash in the pan. They've not looked into something. It's been sheer hard work and determination. And there may be some people out there who disagree with the fact that Prema are winning all the time. Well, you know what? It's an indicator that you need to actually step up.
Well, we hope we can stay on air long enough to see both of the podiums, but because of the late running of everything, that's not necessarily going to be the case. We have 2 minutes left on the clock, and I don't think that we're going to get both the podiums in. We hopefully will get the race-winning podium. As you say, Prema, and I harp on about this, they've made some mistakes this year. They've had some errors. I can remember Zandvoort. What a weekend Zandvoort was for Lance Stroll. But nonetheless, he is the champion, and he has rounded out the 2016 season in such style by taking 3 out of 3, Lee. That reinforces the dominance not only of the team, but also of the driver that is on the top step of the podium. The team principal to the very right of your picture is Rennie Rossin. I do believe, Rennie, he may have had his hair done for the podium this weekend. I'll get told off about that a little bit later on, I feel sure. But it's Lance Stroll, Joel Eriksson and Jake Hughes. What's really, really good is that the podium contains 3 different teams on the 1, 2, 3. So podium presentation for the race win then. And, well, blow me, there's Esteban Ocon to make the trophy presentation to Lance Stroll. Bye-bye for now.